Good evening and welcome back, everyone. As we speak, North America's TSM are on stage with Europe's Splyce as the two teams ready up for the next challenge here at the World's 2016 group stage. Now, Kobe, TSM coming in hot off a victory yesterday.
Yeah, I think they do have to be favored coming into this with the recovery we saw versus Samsung. TSM went back to their proactive style, early game power, the Lee Sin, strong lanes, and Splyce have been struggling. Their first two games dropping to Royal as well as Samsung. There's a lot of room to make up for them. We've seen some good things with Senkooks on the Cassiopeia in the mid lane, but there's definitely a lot of improvement that they need.
And if anyone stands out from TSM, it's got to be Splyce. Even on the loss against RNG, he was looking amazing on the Lee Sin. After rewatching the game, his actual pathing and use of vision, and particularly the use of deduction of where the opposing jungler will be, is so on point. And the way he utilizes the pressure for his lanes and understanding, hey, the guy might be here, just wait for Bjergsen to have pressure, wait for everybody to move around and be in a better position. It's just so great to see.
I love it because it's also reflected in the statistics. You know, the counter jungling number for Svenskeren is highest among any jungler here. It was highest coming in to the tournament as well, because that's the way that TSM plays. When they get those leads, that's the first objective they go to take over.
Now, on the other side of this contest, we have Splyce, who have been embattled and kind of underestimated so far, or underrated rather, in this tournament. But my question to you, Papa Smithy, is what could they, if anything, learn from Samsung's game against TSM yesterday?
I mean, on a very simple level, Samsung drafted 3 losing lanes, and the late game were kind of blown out in the early game, and they had a jungler ambition who tried to do too much with too little, just based on what they'd picked, and were blown out the water. And you kind of look at Splyce's games so far, you know, against Samsung, they did competitively before they fell away in the late game. They were kind of blown away by RNG and the mechanics, and unfortunately for them, it feels like TSM, at least based on that performance yesterday, can pull off a marriage of both those things in the early game, macro and micro, and I just don't know if Splyce can stand up to that.
And one of the things you have to learn about TSM that the teams have to have taken notice is that they will invade your buffs like clockwork. Every single buff they have contested, they go for it, and we only saw RNG be able to punish it one time by being there at the right time, using teleports effectively. But if you're not prepared to answer every single call with the jungle pressure that they're able to put out, you're going to just bleed out jungle objectives and find yourself in positions where TSM just comes from behind and you get kicked in the face.
All right, well, as this is a clash between the old guard and the new kids on the block, I want to go down the line, get your guys' predictions here going into this one. So, Crumbs, we're going to start off with you, TSM or Splyce?
Well, I finally get to kick things off, and it's TSM for me. I think it's going to be a really clean game for them.
All righty, there it is, Papa Smithy.
So I'm caught between 2 NA analysts and an NA host.
Yeah,
it
be
has
careful.
To be team solo mid here. This is the team that comes in big favorites, and honestly, it'd be a huge surprise for Splyce to do anything.
All right, Kobe, bring us on.
I think I'm going to have to go with the conventional wisdom here, go TSM as well. You talked about ways that TSM did lose to RNG, and so much of it was the ability for Mata, in particular, to pull the trigger and punish the carries. I don't think that Splyce have that killer instinct.
All right, it's going to be an uphill battle for Splyce, to say the least. Now it's time to hand it off to Freak, Spawn, and Officio to get this game started.
Thank you very much, Dash. It is time now to get ourselves into this game.
I wonder who's playing.
I think TSM is playing here on one of these sides. Splyce going to be the other one. Picks and bans just moments away here. So let's take a look at the starting lineups for both of these squads. From the European LCS is Splyce. Heard about them a little bit, but you're going to have their lineup now on your screen. Their top laner, Wonder. Their jungler, Trashy. Senkooks in the mid lane. Kabi, their AD carry. Mickey on support with Coach Yamato Cannon. His squad together for about a year here at Worlds.
Yeah, and on the red side of the rift, we have the North American champions, TSM. With Hunter in the top lane, Svenskeren in the jungle, Bjergsen the mid laner, double as AD carry, Bifrost the support, and Path, of course, the coach behind them, as always.
And this will be a very interesting matchup. I mostly want to highlight, I think, what the analyst test, specifically Crumbs, brought up was that Svenskeren has been playing incredibly well this tournament. Bjergsen in the interview yesterday said he is the best Lee Sin at Worlds, and I think he's been TSM's best player so far as well. And yeah, he's the big factor, I think, for TSM.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think that it's even bigger and amplified by the fact that Splyce's lanes rely so much on Trashy to get them ahead. They don't organically gain these advantages themselves. So when Svenskaren's ahead, he invades the enemy jungle. He's going to be able to keep track of Trashy, and I think that makes this game a whole lot harder for Splyce to win.
And he's one of those junglers where Lee Sin instantly becomes like a tier 1, maybe almost an S tier pick, because he's such a massive playmaker. So when you see these pick and ban phases against TSM, where it's like, oh, Rek'Sai is banned, Nidalee is banned, Elise is banned, like he doesn't care. He's going to pick that Lee Sin anyway. And it's been his best pick. Of course, he only played it twice. Basically played it twice.
Only play it
twice. So we haven't even seen any other pick from him, but his Lee Sin has been great, and I think Splyce needs to respect it, because when this team is playing with a mobile jungler and a pushing mid laner, Bjergsen and Svenskeren, they're just all over the map.
It's one of the big strengths of Bjergsen. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and the other dangerous thing about Lee Sin is, he likes to beat against second. So if Trashy does try and go for any cheeky early plays and Svenskeren scouts it out, that puts him in an even bigger hole than what they started with. So I agree. But take it away, force him onto something new and see if it changes the way that TSM approach the early game. I don't think it's going to, but you have to ask the question at least.
Of course. Yeah, you never know. Sometimes it's just because of that one champion synergy that makes you play to this level. We've always seen players like that, where that one champion puts them over the edge, you take them off it, and they're just mere mortals at that point. And of course, we've seen so many upsets here at Worlds already. At this point, you would have to consider Splyce over TSM to be an upset.
Oh, massive
TSM,
upset.
one of the bigger favorites coming into Worlds right here. If you thought a Western team could do it, it probably was going to be TSM coming in here. Yes, they dropped to Royal, but their convincing win over Samsung made a lot of people believers that TSM can walk through this group pretty strongly.
But at the same time, Splyce has 4 Danes, TSM only has 2 Danes.
It is the only advantage.
Me anything.
Yeah,
it is a fact that puts you at a slight advantage.
It is definitely a sausage fest here, but the only advantage, as you said, for Splyce is the multiple Danes. I don't think it's going to be enough, though. This team definitely has not been performing well enough to take games off the other teams, but they are also in the toughest group of them all, with RNG, TSM, and of course, Samsung. Pick and ban phase, where we talked about Lee Sin being an S-tier pick for Svenskeren, it's already removed.
Makes a lot of sense. I'm always appreciative of teams who actually use target bans, who are willing to trade conventionally strong champions back and forth, but they ban the individual player S tiers. You've got the Lee Sin on the one side, the Cassidy on the other for that, and now Splyce setting up what it looks to be the Syndra first pick by banning the conventional counter pick of Vladimir.
So either you ban the Syndra now, or you have some picks prepared against it. The likes of Tom Kench, Braum as a support. But I think banning it is the safest choice. Wait until week 2, and then you can have your counters. You practice them all week. For now, remove it.
I completely agree, and I also like the respect given to the Kassadin still. I mean, if Splyce is going to upset any of these teams, it's going to be through protracting the game, going towards 1-3-1, and then punishing late-game decision-making with the chase potential of a Kassadin. And also good to see another Skarner on Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, so the reason you see Skarner here, and it was the same we saw yesterday, it's when you play against Rek'Sai, you can actually pick the Skarner because you don't get pressured enough in the early game by the Rek'Sai to really matter. Of course, Rek'Sai can pull off ganks, so she can try and snowball lanes, but most of the time Rek'Sai will get to farm, Skarner gets to farm to level 6, then you can start impacting the map. And the reason people really like this Skarner now is because 1, you're strong dueling when you're in your own jungle, near these crystals, and 2, once you hit level 6 and get that ulti, very often it's guaranteed kills if you get to use it.
It's also great synergy with Cassiopeia. I mean, Cassiopeia throws down the miasma, Skarner flashes in, picks you up, takes you away, and with the mid lane bans that have already come out, it is such a strong pick right now. Wouldn't be surprised if TSM go towards that duo to unlock the Bjergsen and Svenskeren.
Absolutely. It's also great alongside the Karma we believe to be support as well. Hastening up a Skarner, he only really cares about move speed for kidnapping somebody with that Impale ultimate, and so far, TSM are set up for success here as they lock in 2 more champions. Rumble going to be one of them, Jhin going to be the other, and they're going to wait on mid, slash that Karma Flex pick.
Yeah, keeping the flex smart. I actually like the adaptation from Splyce here. This was the lane Uzi and Mata played against them yesterday and destroyed them. Killed Mickey multiple times. I think picking this Nami Ezreal is great. It's one of the absolute best lanes when it comes to the first few levels. And if you are Splyce, the big concern is falling behind in the lanes. We know they're a good late game team, but getting there is very, very difficult in the current meta against very good teams. And of course, TSM is a very, very strong team. They play fast games, they're good at snowballing, at least get the lead in the first place, and then Splyce won't get really any chance.
And I do like Nami against Skarner in particular on the point, because Skarner, as he flashes in, Nami has a ability to, be able to keep people a little bit at range with that tidal wave. So there is some slight counterplay there. See whether they can execute upon it, because it was the laning phase in the first place that got Splyce in such a hole.
Give me Cassiopeia here, though, from TSM. Unless they want to pick, support and just put... They can also just put Karma mid. It's a fine matchup as well. Cassiopeia will be a good matchup, a winning matchup for Bjergsen. Right now, they have so many options, honestly, with this last pick. Either you put the Karma there and you're happy with that, or you put the Cassiopeia in there and you win the lane even harder. So there's actually a lot of good choices for them. Because with the Cassiopeia, you just go put a tier into QSS, as we've seen before, and you don't really care about the Malzahar.
You've even got fun little synergies like a Morgana support to like Black Shield off, like if you think of Malzahar is coming in, or make sure Skarner doesn't get stopped on the Kidnap train. There are a lot of available synergies here. They've got plenty of damage here with this Rumble top, you have to believe. So right now hovering conventional support, but no, it looks like Cassiopeia, as you had mentioned very earlier on in this draft, that's going to be locked in. Cassiopeia for Bjergsen.
I like it here. They give some very, very good pressure in the mid lane. For the team bot lane, yes, Nami is good against the Karma, and Ezreal has the very strong early level, so it is definitely a big skill match down there, but if you are the North American team, I think you are fine taking some skill matchups against Splyce.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, it's so easy to knock off that passive with Cassiopeia. There's a buffer time on Malzahar ulti if he doesn't have the passive available to be able to weave the Cassiopeia ulti in there. So I think, this is a perfectly fine lane for Cassiopeia to go into. Also has a shove early, which is always important, especially as we're saying, Svenskeren this time around probably just looking for that level 6 and putting on the heavy farm.
Here we go, the end of picks and bans. No flexes to be worried about in the last 20 seconds here. Couple of mages on both sides, actually, and once again, only one tank, really. The Skarner on the one side for TSM, the Rek'Sai here for Splyce, the single focal point of absorbing all the damage. Long-range artillery, 80 carries on both sides. Kabi on the Ezreal, double lift on Jhin. And we'll see just how well it's going to work. Once again, the home crowd for TSM. You're going to hear these chants all throughout the group stage and hopefully for them through the quarterfinals and maybe beyond as well. They're going to do what they can and take this one home. Hashtag SPY win, hashtag TSM win. For which spot I think is going to take it home as we get ourselves ready for the 5th game.
Yeah, and if they really want to go to the quarterfinals, they have to be able to win a game like this and put themselves in a great position before we go into week 2.
Yeah, that's the thing about TSM's group. I mean, all of these teams should be fallible if TSM is in form that is going to take them to, maybe top 4 or even beyond in this tournament. So excited to see how they play against a young lineup and whether Splyce has anything exciting ready to be pulled out.
And the big thing here is TSM, if they're able to win this, their destiny is in their hands. They are set up for a rematch with Royal Never Give Up, who beat them earlier on in the tournament. They'll get the rematch if they win. They can go to the head-to-head, win the tiebreaker, top their group once again. And when you look at how scary some of the top teams in the various groups are going, getting the #1 seed out of your group can be a very big deal here. TSM hoping to improve to 2-1 at the end of their group stage, sort of first half in this match against Splyce. Splyce sadly 0-2, hoping to turn things around. We've seen big upsets in week 2s, win streaks, loss streaks. Splyce maybe hoping to start it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, one of the problems for Splyce, though, is as a team, they play very standard, very by the book. They don't really do any crazy stuff. During the summer split in Europe, we did see some fun picks come in. They played Talia top lane. They wanted to play a bit of science support, but not really enough to impact early game or in the games they did play. And when they are in game, it's not crazy stuff. It's not like we're going to dive between 2 towers. We're going to play all in. No, it's actually just very standard early game. Farm up, get to mid game, and then do something. And that's very difficult when other teams just outskill you, because then you don't have that surprise factor that some teams are using to get early advantages.
And I think that was really apparent in the RNG game. I mean, when you saw how much of an advantage Uzi was able to get in that duo lane, you saw that, maybe Kobe, maybe Mickey, especially on that day, weren't up to the challenge. So interesting to see whether they have bounced back. They've taken a pretty good matchup into that bottom lane, we think. Should be able to sustain and farm up from range.
It's a bit more interesting. We don't usually see a ton of range support duo lanes take Gromp at the beginning of the game, but that's going to be the situation here for double lift and bio. For us, it means Mickey X is going to be up in front, tanks a Q though, and gets the double bounce across. Now getting autoed on the back of it, and it's a fairly equal trade of health.
Level 2 for double lift early on though. Mickey took a lot of hits on the way back from his trade, but if you're an army, you want to trade level 1 with the W. It is so good to sustain yourself and get an extra hit, of course, on the enemy. But right now, with double lift hitting level 2, the TSM bottom lane is doing just fine. And really nothing major is going to happen down here now. No one is going to just randomly kill each other, even though Mickey is here to play in the lane because he's picked Ignite. So he's going to be fairly aggressive with that one.
Yeah.
No real sustain on the side. The North American team that he has to worry about.
He gets level 2 and he goes in for the pretty heavy trade against Biofrost, who shields some of it back. And they are trading blows pretty heavily here right now. Kabi actually managed to miss 2 CS on the way in. Doublelift, I believe, down 3 if you count the Gromp as 1. And otherwise, still a fairly close game, except for the fact that Bjergsen is already pushing Senkux in.
Yeah, we have to remember there's a big wave coming now for the Malzahar to pick up, but this is some of the problems you're going to see in the mid lane. Bjergsen will have full control. Very hard for Malzahar to do a whole lot in the early game. He's a champion who wants to scale up, wants to get a few items. And with Bjergsen just going tier into QSS, you kind of lose that kill pressure you would otherwise have as a Malzahar.
Yeah, you certainly do, and you see that Bjergsen uses that push to, get a shallow ward there, be able to spot if a gank is going to come out of Trashy. Trashy skipped blue buff, of course, as lots of Rek'Sais do, so Bjergsen knew he was on the bottom side of that map. So far, really standard play out of TSM, but the fact that they've built a 10 CS advantage just out of standard play is already a worrying sign for Splyce.
Yeah, we have to look at Trashy now. As the jungler, when you play Rek'Sai versus Skarner, the first few levels, you do have the gank advantage. You can go and try and snowball a lane and don't really fear the Skarner counter gank too much. But he just did a very standard clear and then he went back. He wants to give this blue buff to the Malzahar. And now it's up to Bjergsen to make sure the Malzahar can't get it. So he pushed him into tower. Bjergsen is moving with Haunter and Svenskeren, and they want to deny this blue buff.
This ward right here, Trashy's not going to get it. It's going to be spited away by Svenskeren. Nicely done. Gets rid of a camp, but that trinket ward a very big deal. TSM have already put 3 deep wards inside of Splyce's jungle, and it might mean a blue buff steal.
And the push in the mid lane, they also had a slight push in the top lane. It's now gone back the other way, but that just allows access for Svenskeren into this jungle. Going to be a smite battle for it.
Nah, Trashy's welcome up. Ooh, wow, nicely played with the dot on. Gives it over to Bjergsen. Beautiful stuff here. Now a battle in the bot lane, a nice bubble. The ignite and the attempt at lane dominance might just work out. First blood for Mickey just in time as Haunter trades one back on a wonder.
So Splyce putting a lot of focus on trying to win this 2v2 in the bottom lane. They do get the kill, but sadly for Splyce, and Wonder dies in the top lane as well. But we get to see this pressure coming in early. Invade for the blue buff. Take it away from Malzahar, who's already struggling. He cannot move. Let's see that fight top lane again. It's Haunter and Wonder.
Yeah,
Wonder.
so
Let's make it Wonder.
Wonder actually just mispositions there and gets caught completely by surprise. Actually flashed when he shouldn't have, because probably was already dead there. Just a miscalculation, honestly, and gets punished heavily because now the wave's pushing and he's going to get return ganked.
Oh, here comes Svenskeren. Does not get the stun available to him, but he will have the ability to get a little bit of damage out here. Just not enough to really matter. No slows left. Bit of chunk in. Out goes Sven.
Trashy's up here as well. He's only level 4 after that invade where he lost a Grump and a blue buff. Definitely not happy days for him. And now we have that issue where you want to try and catch up. He might pull off a gank here.
Level 4 versus level 5, but it's an item lead for Splyce. Haunter does not have flash. The knockup is there, and it's going to be enough damage. The trade kill comes in crucially to Wonder himself.
And honestly, Trashy did what Sven wasn't willing to. He actually burned the flash to pick up the flashless top laner. If Svenskeren just had a flash to get himself in range, probably would have been able to get it done. But
Looking
Senkux
for the solo kill, but a crucial silence buys a bit more time. Senkux burns the ghost to get away. Bjergsen all his sums up, and here comes Mickey X on the roam. Gotta be careful.
He's trying, he's trying. Gotta criticize Haunter a little bit for that play up in the top lane. His own jungler was recalling. He had no vision of where Trashy was on the map. And then with no flash, just went aggressive. You don't need to pull off those kind of plays when your team is already doing okay. And that's where you suddenly open yourself up. Trashy managed to get back in the game with that assist. He was down before, but now he's even level with Svenskeren.
You see both these players a bit newer to the champions they're playing. Doublelift is Jhin, 4-2. If that was Doublelift is Lucian, it'd be like 40-2-ish. He's played it about 1 million times. I'm exaggerating more and more every time I talk about the champion, but either way, one of his newer pickups has been generally working out for him. See how much more they can do. Splyce, though, I gotta point out, is winning in this early game, and it's actually partially because of Trashy. He's gotten that one gank in already. The dual lane winning as well. How often do you really expect Doublelift and Biofrost to lose lane? But that is happening right now with Kabi and Mickey X.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that if you look at Doublelift and Biofrost as a lane specifically, you wouldn't put them at like top 3 in the world. So like we've seen other lanes be more dominant than they have. Obviously, they've been very good in North America.
Yeah.
Mickey and Kabi has actually been what we would consider the second best lane in Europe as well. Did drop a bit in level once we got into playoffs and Forgiven actually re-entered the EULCS. So you can argue if they're second or third there, but they have also been a very, very good bot lane, just pure 2v2 if you look at regional play. Once you start playing the international tournaments, though, you get to face even better bottom lanes, and that's where we get to see some of these even matches now between Europe and NA. but definitely wouldn't rank either of these bot lanes as like the absolute best in the world.
And I think it's fair to say that, you know, both of these lanes struggled against RNG in very different ways. I mean, not being able to deal with the Alistar against TSM, and then the Nami just gave so much lane pressure over to Mata against Splyce, so Splyce's bottom lane definitely no slouches and showing it right now.
Definitely agree right here. You can see Double taking a little bit of punishment. Mickey X making the early pick. Nami working out right now. I gotta say, just it is a good situation for Splyce right now. We talk about teams looking overmatched coming into Worlds, and it was like, oh, Splyce, the obvious number 4 in the group. Everyone else battling for top 1 to 3. But this is Splyce currently winning the game over TSM against most expectations.
But if you are TSM, you're not really too concerned about losing very early on because you were waiting for level 6 on your jungler. He's already 7 now. He has his ulti available, so now we gotta look for that first gank, and this is where they can start turning on the power. Another key item we highlighted before was that QSS. So they understand they need to wait for levels and certain items before going all in against Splyce, and they're getting very, very close now. Next back for Bjergsen will give him his item, and then you can start seeing some fights happening around the map, and a team fighting back a little bit more, because they've accepted, okay, we can go down like a few hundred gold. It doesn't matter anything. No one has ever won the game by just being 400 gold up.
And I think it's fair to say that TSM has become a very good team at understanding when they need to accelerate the game and when they can just sit back and play towards their win conditions. They're still going to have fantastic, consistent damage coming out of Cassiopeia and the Rumble as this game progresses, and so much catch potential if they ever get control of the vision the way they like to in the mid game. So I don't think that they're in any way panicked right now. And if anything, Splyce picked up a slight reprieve in that top lane. And need to continue to make that work with now the power of the cannon and see if they can get maybe a play into the bottom lane that they've started to, you know, try and wrestle for a bit of a lead.
We'll see when it comes in right now. 13 minions up is Wonder. Jungle matchup very close. Trashy once again taking away the Crystal Spires from Svenskr. And of course, we've seen Bjergsen continue to do very well. The early blue buff grant definitely helped, but he's plus 20. As now Trashy slinks towards the top side, standing just outside of ward range. Looking for the play top lane.
We'll have to invest everything to try and take down Hanzo. Just gets the flash, and that's important now because it's such a slow early game. So even the small advantages can be super impactful in just a few minutes. If Splyce suddenly create a play on the bottom side and double TP happens, there will be no flash from Hanzo, so he has to be very careful where he decides to TP to. If he goes too deep, well then suddenly he will die. Otherwise, you can also return gank if you are Splyce on top side. Svenskr is now here, does have his ulti, remember guys.
But he just saw Wando drop a ward in that brush at the river, so he no longer has that easy route in. And a blue this time secured actually for Senkex. Gets his first of the game, but he's up against Bjergsen, who's already picked up a Quicksilver Sash, so it doesn't have the easiest assassination potential on his opposing mid laner. Maybe we'll see him get to roam.
Here's the return gank from Trashy. Always look at the mid lane when you see these ganks as well. Who can move first? Hanzo realizing he might be the target and just ultis the wave straight away. Won't happen for a potential fight. The rest of his team members are moving down to the bottom lane. Splyce can react with teleport.
As well as the Rek'Sai ulti. So this is so dangerous to execute against Splyce's composition.
Oh, Rek'Sai went to the other side. This is bad from Splyce. They're not reading the map at all.
But TSM heard the scream from Rek'Sai and said, ooh, he might have been bot lane. Let's just call this one off for right now. And they don't go for the dive, actually. Just enough risk on them.
Always the pleasure when you can see the entire map and see both sides. You're like, oh, what are you guys doing? Why don't you just go for the dive? But obviously, you just hear the sound. You don't have vision of all the tunnels. Decides to just back away and not risk it against a cannon with ulti as well.
And one thing that I've seen Rek'Sai do, if they are going to play topside very heavily, is just put a tunnel in the middle of bottom lane between the two turrets. So you can always get back down it, even if they walk through the long way and clear it out. And I like the fact that, you know, TSM are willing to respect that and back away from a play. They still get complete control over the bottom side of the jungle, and they lose absolutely nothing on the other side of the map at the same time. So once again, patient play out of the North American team. And it's always really nice to see that, you know, they're just willing to sit on their items right now. No kill threat at all.
But we need to see Splyce continue their pressure towards the top lane. They already did some of the work. They got the flash from Hanzo. Trashy just should path up once again. If you don't get the kill, at least you deny him some more CS and you try and build yourself an advantage. He will be spotted by going over here. He finds Hanzo.
Right into Hanzo, down to half health already. Was even overheated, so the auto attack dealt several hundred damage. The spell's going to come back up soon. Wonder says, ooh, Trashy, I'm here to help, buddy, but he's down to 600 health.
One of the dangers of going TMAT on Rek'Sai is that you are incredibly squishy
Yeah.
in the early game. You farm like a machine. And once more time,
Here's the
TSM
bottom
looking
lane.
for the bottom lane play.
And they know that Rek'Sai was top lane and very injured, so here comes the ulti looking for it on Akabi. A nice tidal wave stops him 2 bullets in. Mickey is able to dodge most of it. Here's the flash, here's the pull. Do they have the damage? Root's gonna land. Sven running out of HP, but it's gonna be the kill already. Now how about Kabi in the chase? Can't quite get the damage across. Sven's gonna get out. Wonder, flash in the chase, gets a stun. Damage on the Biofrost, and that's the kill picked up. Eagles are not doing too much damage just yet, but here is the chase, the follow, the kill. 2-1 TSM on that one.
And this is a problem flashing in when Bjergsen had left first. TSM is able to respond to the play so nicely, beat Splyce to that punch, and punish them for overreaching.
And we have to highlight Splyce, how slowly they did react here. They just made a play on the top side. They showed their jungler, and yet the bottom lane didn't react in time, didn't move back. TP came in very late from Wonder as well. If you see him on your minimap, he's still sitting top lane right now. He's not TPing, he's not doing anything. So Mickey is the target. A lot of damage onto the Skarner, no TP yet, and now he used it. Imagine if this came in 2 seconds earlier, then this Skarner is already dead. And now Wonder instead has to overextend for this 1 kill. Ends up going down because Bjergsen is already here. The Malzahar moved late, and this is just Splyce reacting way too late to a very predictable play.
And TSM had complete information as we have a gank onto Bjergsen.
The flash knock, bubble not gonna land, but the damage is still pretty good. Bjergsen ulted after the Quicksilver Sash, which by the way does not remove Malefic Visions, burns the CD for nothing, and goes down.
So this is much better out of Splyce because as we said, TSM set up Vision on the bottom side of the map. They come from top side of mid lane where they have double pink ward and set up a very smart trap for Bjergsen. Like to see them punch back in that fashion.
This is the kind of game Splyce likes to play. Nothing really happens early on. It's not the most exciting thing to watch, but they want to get past that early laning phase. They want to get to mid game where they can start making much better calls as a team. They have good macros. Well, they understand where to pressure. They understand how to set up team fights. So right now, it is actually looking pretty good for Splyce, and they had exactly the kind of game they were looking for.
And they might keep the pressure on. They've kept the game at this moderate to small lead, actually up to 1,000 gold now. It's actually grown over the last couple of minutes here as you look for the play. Wonder diving in onto Haunter. Look at the punishment he's got available. This Rumble does not have the damage. And by the way, Trashy's here as well. Lands an assist, and Wonder getting himself yet another one. 2-2, 5-3 the overall score. And look at this, several thousand gold. Splyce in the lead.
Hunter is struggling a bit and really well played by Wonder here, just going straight for it. He knew Trashy was coming, and these two guys together definitely been putting a lot of pressure towards the top lane. And even when you then try to go to the bottom lane, well, Rek'Sai returns again, pulls off another gank, even though he didn't actually do anything.
And I always like watching Splyce when Wonder and Trashy both have initiation tools and have been rolling in the early game because it sets up their late game team fighting, in my opinion, much more effectively. We saw when it was only Wonder running around on that Kled, no follow-up coming out of Trashy. They did look disjointed. But this time around, you know, Rek'Sai, Cannon, they're going to be able to dive the backline together, hopefully look for those big flanking plays and see whether they can make this small lead convert into something bigger against TSM.
It's going to be the really big test. Can Splyce hold on to a strong early game? You think back to their first matchup Worlds Up against Samsung, where they had a passable early to mid game. They were close for most of it. It was a winnable match, and then basically had catastrophically bad team fights about 4 times in a row, and the game snowballed away.
And I think that was when Splyce were actually playing a little bit too antsy. They felt like they had to make plays in that game, whereas this time around they're playing a little bit more reserved. Oh, he is such a cheeky man.
Yep, Sven walking right in. Trashy did not have Smite available. No last hit was up for Splyce, so nicely done, Sven. Taking away yet another blue buff. Sven's only gotten 1 of 3 so far this game.
And let's go over some sad European stats. You know, coming into this game, we were looking at Splyce that struggles so much in the 2 games. We might actually get a play on top side, which does delay the stat point a little bit. I think the play is more important. Will be spotted, moves away. But Splyce, before this game here, they didn't manage to get first blood, first tower, or first dragon in the 2 games they played. At 20 minutes, on average, they were down 7,000 gold. Not gonna happen in this game here. Much better early game from them, much slower. They didn't get pressured as hard in the lanes like RNG used to do. So they're actually able to now get into a mid game where they're not really far behind, and we get to see what they really can do. Another play on the top lane here. Skarner and Cassiopeia on the way. This time around, Splyce does back away and just traded for a tower on the bottom lane.
Yeah, cross-map coming in. You can see that Rek'Sai moves into the turret, zones away Haunter at the same time. Looks like TSM will be able to pick up the first structure bonus, but at least Splyce able to get something on the other side of the map.
It's crucial that TSM is faster on the race because that turret down below 1,000 health, that's a 700 gold difference based on whether you can get it or not. If you kind of what you would have gotten versus what they would have gotten, it's very crucial that did come through. So that ties the game up momentarily for TSM. Gold they needed to have flooded back into their coffers. Yes, Splyce will answer the turret, but it's still a difference in how fast they went down. A very big deal here for TSM to keep the game closer.
I'd like to see Senkox here in the mid lane actually go forward and just try and use his ulti on Bjergsen to force the QSS, because the cooldown on QSS is 90 seconds. The cooldown on a Malzahar ulti at this point is 73 seconds. So you can actually force out the QSS, and then once your ulti is back up as the Malzahar, you just flash in, your QSS, your ulti once again, and this time around you have someone there with you, a jungler, support, and you actually kill this Cassiopeia and you open up the mid lane. It's one of the plays you can do when you play around cooldowns, but it does require him to get down the first one without using flash.
Especially when he had the support there, because you know,
exactly.
in that situation, Bjergsen's not in a situation to instant QSS kill him. So I completely agree with the play there, especially if you don't have to burn a summoner spell to make it work. Certainly something that Splyce can look towards. And I like the fact that, you know, Splyce continually looking to get positional advantages on this map. One more time, they're willing to rotate towards the top side, as it looks like TSM want to set up around the Dragon or bottom lane turret, and just tit for tat, willing to give away small advantages to pick up something somewhere else.
We'll see the next advantage comes through right now. The fight for the red buff continues as Biofrost helps Svenskeren grab it. And there it is, level 11 Skarner and the beginning of Cloud Drake going down. We know from the North American Finals, TSM great at killing clouds, and they might get one here. Oh, 3,000 health left.
Too soon.
Yeah. It's like a month ago. TSM, just like last month, successful, takes down the Cloud Drake.
And now they're looking for that bot lane tower. Mickey might face check, should just place a ward like he does now. And once again, Splyce is constantly playing top side to try and get a tower down. It's just Trashy and Wonder together, but it's much slower than what TSM is doing, and that's why they're losing a little bit here and there. They lost the first tower, they now lost the Dragon. We'll still see this tower take a lot of damage in the bottom lane. Trashy comes down, so 4 members of the bottom lane for Splyce to try and defend. They knew they were losing the race again. Rumble could ulti, and like he actually just did on top lane, clear out the wave, and it's still this very, very slow game where it's about just getting a little bit of damage on towers and then see if you can find an opening. But because both teams are playing the same game, whenever one team does something on one side, the other team should be able to do something on the other side.
All right, now it's TSM looking for something on the middle side. A couple of snipes come through. Pretty good accuracy. Trashy says, I'll take that one. 269 damage means nothing to a Rek'Sai.
I want to see that ult in mid lane. Do it, put some pressure, get that cooldown, and then go for it again 70 seconds later. So you actually have an advantage in mid, because right now, it's very even across the map, and small things can then push it in your favor.
Here we are 20 minutes in. The gold difference about 200. Very tight here in this mid game. I don't think either team has significantly obvious scaling differences. High damage mages, high damage top laners. Ezreal can definitely hard carry later on. If Kavi's good enough to do it, that might be the breaking point just compositionally. But otherwise, this is anyone's game to win based on how well they play it. Bjergsen gives himself another blue buff.
And you know, sometimes it just comes down to like ease of execution of team comps. And Cannon diving a Cassiopeia Jhin is much easier to nail down in the late game than trying to chase a blue Ezreal. Oh, it's actually a Trinity Force Ezreal, same thing, around Summoner's Rift. So I think that, you know, maybe you can say slightly easier.
Yeah, I actually think Splyce will have an easier time executing team fights late game, because if you look at the lineup for TSM here, it's one guy diving in, that's the Skarner on his own. Well, Malzahar late game, he wants the tank to come towards him, and he can just ulti the Skarner straight away. And then behind that Skarner, a Kennen is sitting with the ulti. There's a tidal wave for zoning as well. There's enough backline threat from Splyce to keep Bjergsen and Doublelift in place. Jhin is an AD carry who's sitting very far back in fights, so it's going to be hard for them to actually deal with that Kennen when it comes in.
Gonna walk in a couple people. Sees Trashy, doesn't ult in time to steal him over the wall, but wants Wonder. It forces the flash out. Now the flash chase. He's got that one into the petrifying gaze and all the damage they could possibly need. And finally, TSM finds blood. Looking at the Baron pit and actually gonna start it and then run away.
2 guys in the bottom lane for Splyce here. Once again, we have these plays. One team goes aggressive on one side, the other team is trying on the other one, but it's Splyce being a little bit behind again.
This felt overly safe from TSM. The entire bottom lane of Splyce was down there and Wonder was dead. That was a 5v2 Baron at best for Splyce, and TSM says, just kidding, we'll kill a ward.
Value getting some damage on this tower here. Rest of Splyce is on the way. Bjergsen has to take a long route around.
Dave, nice knock up into more. That's a lot of damage across. No ulti's really available. Svenskeren gonna get burned down. Lots of dots. He's gonna try to get away. Not gonna get hit by the Mystic Shot and will survive it. A nice equalizer though separates the team. Senkuk still gets the chase and Wonder finds a solo stun. Haunter gonna lose his life. No, it's Bjergsen who gets the kill actually. And now one more snipe and it's still gonna get picked. Yes, he flashed early and Bjerg's on the chase. They're gonna get more. Oh, he's not gonna burn down. Instead, they'll pick him off and Bjergsen goes down. What a chaotic battle back and forth. 2 dead so far on each side. Kavi wants in on double lift. A couple more shots will do it. Can't quite land the skill shots. A lot of near deaths.
Yeah, just had a few minutes in front of him. Couldn't hit the Mystic Shot and the rest of TSM gets to walk away. But this fight here was crazy. Splyce, they come in from the flank. Look at the target selection at first. Copy actually decided to ulti towards Bifrost instead of just killing Svenskeren. It is fine to focus one target when you have a Malzahar, but that ulti went to the left. Luckily though for Splyce, Svenskeren does die in the end to all these Voidlings. Wonder joins, has no flash, and instantly just goes down.
And I think that's one of the times that you just cancel the ulti because double lifts follow and the chase potential out of TSM is still there. Kobe tries to save the back end of this team fight because he does go incredibly aggressive to force multiple members back.
And look at him jumping in here. There's a minion just in front of him, blocking one. There's another minion blocking another one from him. So he ends up fighting in the minion wave. Not able to be the hero. Another fight in bottom lane. This game is definitely speeding up a little bit.
But the damage deal is out of Splyce right now. 3-0-0 on the Malzahar. Picked up the Rylai's, going towards what will be Burning Face at some point in this, the Leandre's Torment. And the Ezreal is really rolling as well as double is caught.
Running out of HP, silence, damage coming across, and Voidlings go yum. That's going to be mine. Senkuk gets the solo kill.
I'm not sure why Doublelift was up there on his own 24 minutes into the game, but he got punished instantly. That's a big advantage for Splyce. 80 carry is gone. They can start moving into enemy jungle now, set up vision, see if they can take away a camp or two. They really want to start getting some more towers down.
And he dies just in time for Infernal Drake. That means right now priority on the bottom side of the map belongs solely to Splyce. You can see TSM are going to threaten the Baron area and see if they can pull them away from the objective.
And now we need to make sure Senkuk doesn't make the same mistake. He is backing away. Bjergsen is spotted. Small movements all the time from both teams trying to catch each other out. One guy overextends and he dies.
Senkuk will have his ultimate about 15 seconds after the Drake respawn. It's a pretty tight timing, but Doublelift, even though he's alive, his Maw of Malmortius is still several seconds away. Won't have it if there's a close team fight.
And you know, with these team fights, sometimes it just comes down to the summoner spells. Wonder's not going to have his available. Svenskeren's nearly back off cooldown. Coming into this team fight, we'll see whether he's able to penetrate the backline before Wonder can do the same against TSM, because this game is so close right now.
Veldrake started Freak right now by just Trashy alone. He's split from the rest of the team.
And he's got ward coverage, so no one knows he's actually doing this right now. TSM might let him get the rest of the damage across. Sven's still not looking.
They're not checking.
Yep, it's going to be a clean one. Haunter just now can see what's going on, and he's not going to get the chance to steal. Nicely played by a Trashy. Very low-risk play, and he gets the Drake.
And these are some of the plays I like to see from Splyce. You know, the shot calling really makes sense. It's very calm, very collective. They're a team that never really tilts when they do fall behind. They actually talk about how to get back into the game. And this game, because we didn't get to see Lee Sin for Svenskeren, we saw a slower jungler. We didn't get to see TSM play this fast-paced game, really put pressure in the laning phase. Splyce also picked for strong bot lane with the 2v2 and the offensive summoner. So they actually had a very good game plan. And they made sure that what happened yesterday against RNG is not happening today, because as long as they have a slower early game, they can actually play some pretty good League of Legends.
And I want to bring up what we talked about with Svenskeren earlier, how he has probably been TSM's best player, an incredibly strong early game jungler. Bjergsen called him the best Lee Sin of the tournament. Well, Lee Sin's banned, Elise is banned, Nidalee's banned, Rek'Sai's first picked. A lot of the early aggressive junglers not allowed. Picks the Skarner, has no really game impact, and here's the game we have.
And you know, this is the beauty of best of ones, because you think if TSM RNG was immediately a best of 3, does Alistar get through game 2? Whoa!
Again, the assassination attempt, Doublelift down to half HP, gets silent, and he's
sideways.
trying to run away, but he's not going to do enough. Senkuk's with his second straight solo kill onto Doublelift.
What's going on here? You can't keep sending your AD carry, or your AD carry can't keep walking himself towards the side lane. Look at the minimap, guys. All 4 members from TSM are way behind the river.
And one more time, it's a little thing. Senkuk burns the ghost straight away as soon as he sees him, hones in on that target, able to close distance that maybe the rate Doublelift didn't expect. Thought he could potentially get out, but no flash just means that he's a sitting duck.
Definitely so. Jhin has absolutely nothing to do in a side lane at this point, and it's been too easy kills here for Splyce, and that always allows them to get some control around whatever objective they want to fight for. Malzahar is getting close to his 3-item spike, the big power spike for him. He's a great scaling mage. Bjergsen looking for a duel up in the top lane, it looks like. He's not spotted, but Trashy's here too on a pink ward.
Summoner and ultimate advantage. Trashy waiting in the wings, out of sight. And Bjergsen will only get the wave through. No attempt to go for the kill. I think if Sencooks had the ulti, he might have tried, but that won't be the case here.
And we can see
SvenskJaron waiting.
that SvenskJaron, he knows he's going to be the target for the Malzahar, so he picked up his own QSS when he dives in to dive forward, try and land his ulti onto someone, and then when he gets ultied himself, he QSS's right after to get back out once his own ulti is gone, and therefore he can try and stay alive. It's going to be some very, very close team fights. Almost dead even in gold, but 2 silly deaths now from the double lift.
And what that means is, now Sencooks has gone back. He's picked up Leandri's Torment. And Malzahar with Leandri's, with some extra points in that swarm, going to be able to start up Baron. The minions take it for you, and you take very little damage and do it at a rapid rate. When you have things like a Cannon, like a Malzahar that put out so much AoE magic damage, Baron Pit is the ideal spot to fight and look for these flanks. So see whether now Splyce put War.
Oh, he walked into the bubble. Goodbye to Biofrost. Sencooks is dominating. Mid lane's going to go down. Doublelift also losing his life for it. TSM absolutely falling apart.
TSM bottom lane members, burn your flash. Stop sticking around in these situations where you can be picked up and died. Completely disrespectful play.
And also, don't go Hexstringer versus the Malzahar. Just get a QSS, because he's going to kill you through it, or his teammates are going to be there and kill you as well. Doublelift gone down the 3rd time now. Baron has been started. SvenskJaron is around. Bjergsen from the top side.
3 versus 5. Rumble ulti across the top. Here comes the ultis. A lot of damage coming out from TSM. Can they have the rest of it? 1,500 health left on Baron. Bjergsen picks up Kami, but at least it's secured Baron for Trashy. Fight continues. Couple of kills on both sides. Here comes the blue team running out of HP. Wonder wants back in, but Hanser grabs him off. Bjergsen finally running out of HP. Hanser going to drop as well. Biofrost, the only living member of TSM. A 3-for-3 overall. Baron secured for Splyce.
Splyce gets the Baron, as you said. Good defense, though, from TSM, killing a lot of members here. So many guys stuck in that Baron pit. Bjergsen could just pick whichever target he wanted to. But the bottom lane from Team Solarmate has definitely been an issue in this game, both in the laning phase and outside of the laning phase. As because they died, Splyce could start this Baron.
And you see how quickly they do it, but the fact that TSM came from 2 angles, the fact that Bjergsen was able to get down so much damage, takes one member down, forces another member out, and that is practically a 3v3 in this pit where he goes absolutely insane.
Ooh, that one silence was spot on from the Malzahar, stopping Bjergsen from cleaning house. Ended up being a risky Baron call in the end, basically a 50-50 for the smite. Splyce has managed to pick it up, 4,000 gold lead. They've barely been challenged here in the mid game.
We know from Worlds so far that the 4,000 gold lead can be overturned, but really the story of this game has been the fact that Splyce is playing better than TSM. Now, a Baron buff on 2 members. The question is how much they can gain with that. Right now, the Baron power play, only 1,700. Not too huge so far, but they've still got several minutes to work with, including this Mountain Drake respawning.
And we know as soon as you get Flash on your Malzahar, then you can go straight for double lift again, because he's sitting with that Hexstringer instead of the QSS, so he has no way out once he gets locked down by Splyce. Mid tower does go down. Some gold for the North American team, and we can see Splyce does something they like to do a lot, is move Sencooks to the side lane and have him as a split pusher, and he pushes in one way if he tries to challenge 1v1, or he roams in and joins his team. But Splyce have the advantage even in 5-on-5s, because they can get to that 80 carry every time.
And the best thing about this is, Bjergsen or SvenskJaron have to be the person to match right now. It's not going to be SvenskJaron, because he's probably just going to die in the chase anyway. It has to be Bjergsen, because they're the only QSFs holders.
Ooh, they might catch him, though.
Looking for the play. Ulti is on. Getting a bit of damage here towards Sencooks. The snipe's going to come through. Running out of HP. Sven gets ulted. Doesn't seem to care. Quicksilver Sash is on, and he's going to hope that
he's going to die.
But he's actually going to lose his life for it. Sencooks gets a kill in a 1 versus 2. Meanwhile, mid lane's going down dangerously low.
Everything is in favor of Splyce right now. SvenskJaron thought he could either finish him or had backup coming. Bjergsen didn't get to move in time. That's a kill for Splyce. That's a tower in top lane. It's a 2nd tower now in the top lane as well. Going down, and Splyce, they're getting everything right now.
And Sencooks just being delivered those free kills in the mid game has meant now that this 9-1 and 2 Malzahar is just uncontested in the side lanes, and they're using it beautifully.
Look at this, Splyce doing incredibly well, 6,000 gold up, and it also means if the matches go the way we expect, second place in this group is up for grabs. Royal Never Give Up look amazing. We expect them to beat Samsung, which means we might have a situation where you've got 3 teams at 1 and 2 who've all beat each other, but first you've got some fighting. Wonder stunned up, will get popped off. TSM get a reprieve. They have bought some time. Maybe they bring it back in, but Splyce, the team winning in this game, are poised to be tied for second in this group.
That's a really nice play out of TSM. I mean, it just stops the bleeding. They now get to take a big, deep breath, assess where they're at in the game, you know, maybe tell Doublelift to buy a QSS. Because, like, right now, the game was snowballing out of control so quickly. They were trying to actually play to Splyce's pace, and you could see that they were struggling with it.
Well, this is a 4v5 Dragon being started. Actually, never mind, Bjergsen is back in the fountain. They obviously don't know exactly where he is on the map, so they think it's a 4v5, potentially. Monster with TP in the top lane. There is TP for Wonder as well. There is a ward behind TSM at the moment in that little bush behind the wolf camp. That could be the location for Wonder if Splyce wants to fight.
4, 3, 2, 1. Baron goes down first. Will he teleport is the question. TSM walking away, and looks like that's not going to be the play. Mountain Drake secured.
And once again, one of the best characteristics of Splyce is the fact that they don't overreach very often. I mean, it was very uncharacteristic to see them do so against Samsung time and time again. I like the fact that, you know, Mountain Drake at this stage of the game, not going to be all that game ending, so they just take a step back, reassess the situation, get their shops in, and now come back with even more power.
And the thing is, while Mountain Drake is, like, statistically very good late game, it only matters if you're winning. If you're able to attack a turret or a major objective, and Splyce have been the one controlling the pace and mostly keeping TSM off these objectives. This Mountain Drake could do literally nothing for the squad, and Splyce might not feel the pain at all.
Yeah, it's basically just you take it away from them.
Sure.
So, you know, giving them that extra advantage, you take it for yourself.
And Splyce would love it.
Exactly, they would love it now. They're the team trying to close out the game. They're the team setting up for Baron in 2 minutes' time. Always got to look at the Skarner where he's going. There's no QSS
Oh,
on the
he
side.
can't flash out. He's running out of HP, and that's going to be the kill. Maybe a bit of a waste from Svenskr, but it is still the support kill picked up. Splyce now in a 4v5.
And Mickey really had no business here in the mid lane as a support. This late in the game, he gets caught out. Great catch from TSM, and now they're pushing towards this tower. They're going to get more, and Splyce, well, they had a great last 10 minutes. They've been slipping a little bit. Wonder dying in the top lane. Mickey dying in the mid lane here as well. Given some advantages over.
And once again, it is that Cassiopeia-Skarner combo that's able to catch them out. Mickey can't even burn that flash. They use the time right now to take down a turret, get a little bit more control around that Baron area, clean up their side waves that Splyce was setting up so nicely, and maybe set another trap.
We'll see if they can find it. I think that was... Don't know who it was, but uh-oh, Senkuk's gonna lose the passive, gonna flash, but the slows are still there. That's the ulti, that's the kill. 3 unanswered kills for TSM, taking back control of the game.
The experience and the shot calling kicking in here for the North American team. They're just catching out Splyce twice now. Splyce is walking around a little bit too casually here, not really expecting anything to happen, but this late in the game, something will always happen. You never just get 10 minutes to sit in your own jungle. 2 easy kills. Sadly, for TSM, there was no Baron alive to take. They have to wait another 30 seconds, and then we're going to get a fight around it.
But once again, there's been so long since Splyce has actually had all 5 members up on Summoner's Rift and being able to execute on this game plan. The more these kills snowball in, the less control they have deep into TSM's jungle, the harder it is to wrestle control of this Baron back. All really started with Wonder getting caught out in that top lane, and since then, TSM has just been able to pick off 1 member at a time and really get themselves back into this game.
A few major items have come through. Sadly for Doublelift, still not a Quicksilver Sash, and it goes towards maybe an Infinity Edge or a Duskblade to round out the build a bit farther. So he is still a prime target, but you've got a lot of magic penetration. 4 Void Staffs on all 4 big mages, and Wonder just got his death cap. We have seen Kennon's 1v5 some team fights. Nightmares of Smeb from earlier today. We'll see if it can happen. TSM slinking back in. Svenskr loses the Banshee's Veil.
He's going in. He's going towards Mickey again.
Not going to land the roof, but they are going to get the snipe, the assassination. Mickey goes down 5v4, missing an ultimate. Back into his trashy. Bjergsen putting down, pops the shield, and Rek'Sai won't get the kill. Look at the damage out from Wonder. They've picked up 1 as TSM have lost their jungler, but Trashy gonna lose his life as well. The Rek'Sai gonna go down and squeal in pain. And here's the snipe. Doublelift gets 1. He's looking for 2, and he has no idea where Wonder went.
Where'd that one go?
And that's a nice dodge. There was no vision. He had to guess which way that little rodent ran, and He ran away.
He had the third shot going completely wide. They're looking towards the Baron. No one can really tank this. Wonder is around. He's very, very low. Copy actually went back to base instead of trying to lifesteal on a camp. And now he has to run.
TSM, this is actually very dangerous. Wonder's gonna have Proto Belt back up, but it dies too fast. Well done. Bjergsen has all the gold. He's doing all the damage. And that Baron brings the game right close.
Yeah, Copy recalling here, man. Splyce didn't have any way to kind of stop that Baron. So they go for Mickey again. The support without QSS should definitely pick it up at this point. They go on to Bjergsen. He managed to flash away. He stays alive. Wonder with a great ulti in the back. And right now it looks very even. But suddenly, this Jhin here was left untouched for most of the fight. Gets to deal some proper DPS. And then let's see, when he challenged the ulti, gets one, misses one. Then the third one goes towards the bush here. He was trying to see maybe if Ezreal was sitting and recalling behind that little corner.
And it's the tiny things in teamfight. The reason that Double Lift was untouched, a clutch exhaust came out of Bifrost, and then Svenskeren, before he was stunned, jerks that cannon away from the AD carry, means that Double Lift comes out the back end of the fight completely full health, able to clean up the back end with a very nice ultimate. So, you know, Double Lift coming up the superstar, but hats off to Svenskeren, hats off to Bifrost, because they're definitely doing their job of keeping him safe.
Absolutely agree. The peel was good enough, and TSM now back in a gold lead. It's been a long time they were down here, but it's 500 gold ahead. Still looking at the bot lane as well. Not yet playing for the turret, though, buying their time, and there we go. They're done biting it. Down goes the turret. The Mountain Drake actually, of course, meaning quite a lot as they took back map control. Baron died fast. His turrets have died fast. They've tied up the turret score itself. 1,500 gold ahead.
And almost everything comes from TSM getting those 2 picks earlier. One against Mickey, one against Senkooks. When they got their pick on Senkooks, he used both summoners. So for that last team fight, he couldn't flash in on someone like Double Lift and actually just destroy him instantly. He had to sit very far back, and Splyce weren't able to properly team fight. Yeah, okay, they had to sacrifice their support, but that's normally okay. I would still love to see a QSS for Mickey, so he's no longer such an easy target. But really having no summoners because you got caught out in that jungle, it costs you so much in late game team fights. And that's where Splyce have just been a little bit too sloppy in the way they've been playing the last few minutes.
But you have to give credit to TSM because, you know,
For sure.
ever since they've got that advantage back. Big engage potentially looking here.
Dodge the ulti. His bubble's gonna land on a Double Lift, though. Ooh, down to half health. And doesn't have any lifesteal to speak of, so getting his health bar back up will take some significant effort. Just a Doran's Blade. Hoping to do enough to get his health, and you can see the team is letting him hit these Krugs. Just kidding, Bjergsen says it's mine.
So the ability to turn the game on one pick, which is what TSM did in the top lane once they took down Wonder, and control the tempo of the game from then on out, playing around death timers, has been incredibly impressive. However, now looking for another 5v5, this is very risky.
Kill it pretty fast. Splyce waiting. 7,000 health left on Elder Dragon. This could be the major engage. Could be a game-deciding teamfight. They've rooted up Wonder. They put a lot of damage down towards him. He jumps away, and Trashy gonna tank that ulti. No one's taking meaningful damage from Double Lift here. 3,000 health left on the Dragon. 2,000 looking for the smite. Fight picked up! Nicely done by Svenskeren to grab it, and TSM run right back to the bottom lane. And Splyce must answer soon.
Getting everything right now. There was no flash for Wonder, so he couldn't really get into the back line. Therefore, Splyce sat back very passively. Big minion wave top lane. Rest of TSM is down the bottom lane, pushing in.
And this turret's already injured. They got hits on it before. Trash the first one here, but the shield is on a Bifrost says, I'll tank the hits. Let's get the damage across in. Splyce have not gotten there in time, so an undefended turret kill. TSM.
And Wonder's gone top lane without teleport to clean up that huge minion wave. TSM walking forward.
TSM see that he's top lane now. They see him on the minimap. Copy. Ooh, jump forward for a poke on a Double, but again, that is an 80 carry without lifesteal, so Double will stay at half health and saying, you know what, this is a bit risky. Baron's timed out. Looks like TSM will reset.
That was scary out of Kobe there. He dashes forward without a... he has a Mercurial Scimitar, but, you know, potentially there is still the one-shot potential because of how much damage Jhin does, how much damage Cassiopeia does. If Svenskeren is able to pick him.
But it is some of the things you can do on Ezreal in the late game. It's why so many of these great AD carries, they love to play him because they can carry late game team fights by playing very aggressive. We gotta see if Kobe here, who is still such a young player, this is his first year playing professional League of Legends, if he can actually step up in these late game team fights, playing in some players who's been here for multiple years, been to a lot of international tournaments, and we've definitely seen the better shot calling on the side of TSM compared to Splyce. Here in the late game, they've been able to just claw their way back in the game, picked up all the objectives, and they're looking for more. Still no QSS. for Senkux, no QSS for Mickey. They're easy targets for someone like Svenskeren.
But the game is still in very familiar territory for Splyce. I mean, everyone's getting towards that 6 items now. It's late game. It's going to come down to that one team fight. And they still have those tools of the big flanks. Now Wonder has everything available going towards the arm guard finally. Going to pick that up as a 6 item. Has flash, has teleport. See whether Splyce can get one of those deep flanks one more time with their jungler, with their top laner.
Plenty of healing power on Mickey X as well. He's got the basic items, but another turret going down. 3,000 only. The gold lead for TSM. Easily surmountable here. 42.5 minutes in. Any team could take this game, but it's been TSM who's looked better in the last 15.
And it's like 75 to 78,000 gold that pretty much your major carries have all their items completed anyway. So right now, you can nearly throw the gold out the window. I mean, it's a good indicator to see who's ahead.
Sure.
Yeah, what's important now is the position on the map. The fact that one team has full control of the Baron area. So once Baron does spawn, we've seen how fast they can take it down. And if Splyce has to suddenly face check through the jungle to get there, they get delayed or they risk getting picked off by Svenskeren. And then suddenly you get another free Baron going down. So the positioning on the map is now more important than the gold. And that's why they're all staying on the top side. Splyce is trying to place a few wards in the jungle to spot where the enemy is, but they don't get them deep enough. And once this Baron spawns, you instantly start thinking, are they on it? Can they rush it down fast enough? And suddenly you react too late.
And it's not only Baron, but the champions that can die in the blink of an eye. You're seeing neither top laner willing to split push in the bottom lane, despite the fact that teleport is available. They're all grouping together to play for this vision. 30 seconds on Baron. TSM looking forward, trying to cut the wave out, but Senkux already did the same with Malzahar with just 2 button presses. Mid lane waves cleared again. Hansard, though, is first to the top lane. TSM coming to reinforcement. Look at the damage up what they've got on this turret, the out rotation. But Wonder, he wants into the back line. Exhaust is on Bifrost, losing his life, but it's Wonder who does. That's a 1-for-0 in TSM's favor, but their health bars are very low. The catch on a Senkux. It's a 5v3. The snipes are gonna land, and Mickey nearly losing his life as well. They're onto the inhibitor.
Splyce took that fight without key items in the late game. No QSS, no Hourglass, so 2 members just went down so quickly. 5 versus 3 now. 2 Nexus turrets. They're going for them.
Looking now for Nexus turret number 1. Half health on it. Doublet's got 2 shots, and bam! Look at the health bar going down. 909 for that auto attack. Now onto that final turret. Splyce must defend 3 versus 5, but Kobe goes in. It goes huge. Taken down. Bjergsen, his countrymate, is dead. Hansa running out of health as well. How much more can this Ezreal do? Sven goes in, lands the stun, looking for the kill on the support. Meanwhile, the Nexus with the health as well, but Bifrost will probably go down, trying to heal up, and Double saves his lane mate. Now on to Trashy, getting that one as well, and no one's left to stop them. TSM complete the comeback.
And the late game for TSM, correct decision after correct decision, understanding where they can take their team fights.
Yeah, this was not about compositions. This was just one team being much better in the late game at calling where to go. Where can we punish the enemy? What objective are we going for? Notice here in the end how they're moving between the lanes. They're setting up minion waves coming from one lane. Splyce starts to push out mid. Well, then suddenly top is open. And Splyce fighting without key items so late in the game as well. No QSS, no Hourglass. They dive in, they die. Too late in the game to do anything. Great late game shot calling from Team Solomed.
Absolutely agree. They played the map better. They definitely deserved the win. We've seen so many games today specifically of these very tight ones, the leads going back and forth. It's either team's game, and it was TSM who held on a little bit better. After about 25 minutes, they started making the better decisions. You were seeing players get caught out. There was a string of 3 to 4 unanswered kills and 3 to 4 objectives grabbed as well, where Splyce couldn't find the openings, they couldn't find the positioning, and TSM got pick after pick after pick and finally mounted the lead.
And one more time, we see the rush of blood where, you know, you get a couple of objectives, you think that you can push in for one more, that top lane turret, but you get caught out and the game just reverses on you instead of, you know, playing that slow methodical pace, recognizing that you have an advantage at that stage of the game and being willing to just play with that. Put your hand in the cookie jar, get slapped out.
I mean, we see the inexperience of Splyce. Young players, you know, we talk about a promotion tournament, 2 worlds, crazy, you know, route they've taken, but they show here late game, they just didn't have it in them. You know, too often did individual players that make mistakes, and as a team, they fell apart. And that's just where you see the experience, the training, And you see what some of these absolute top teams do have, which is the coolness in the late game to bounce back, get the picks, and win.
Right, and it's 2 games now for Splyce where they were winnable games. Their match against Samsung, this match here against TSM. Splyce, with 3 months more experience, maybe even less than that, could have been a 2-1 team right now in groups.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's 2 games where also Sankooks has absolutely gone off in the mid game. I mean, the Cassiopeia game that we saw on the day number 1, now this game on the Malzahar being able to pull out. I think that is a hugely, that is a bright, bright sign for this Splyce lineup, because in the European LCS, this was a guy that, historically fell down very far behind in lane and wasn't able to climb out some of those holes. Now against Bjergsen, able to have a pretty classy game.
Yeah, he's definitely become the best player on this team if you look at just this tournament alone, because he's been playing so well. But he needs the rest of his team now around him to step it up as well. We can't have these individual mistakes. Full credit, though, to the opponent, Team Solomed. What a great late game from them after they fell behind, after Doublelift got caught so often. Didn't happen the last 15 minutes. He stayed really far back in team fights. There were no summoners on the Malzahar to catch him, and therefore they managed to win. And he actually went from being 0-3 to 6-3 in these late game fights.
So Doublelift found what it took to get himself back in. TSM got the comeback as well. Well done to them, now improving to 2-1 in the group stage. And now for another win on the board, we're going to send it down to Shocks for a perspective from Doublelift.
Thank you so much, guys. And he's joined by Doublelift here. Doublelift, very tense game, very strong late game for you guys. Where did it turn around, you think, for you?
Well, Splyce didn't seem to really know how to close the game with their lead. I think mostly, I mean, it's just true. They should have won. But their Malzahar was extremely fed, but he was split pushing in the side lane instead of grouping up and forcing fights on mid. I feel like at any point he could have just flash ultied Cassio mid. So I think just by stalling out the game, I got caught too many times as well. But just in general, us stalling out the game, their team comp doesn't scale very well because Ezreal gets outscaled by Jhin, and I'm pretty confident in my late game team fighting with Jhin. Also, I feel like Skarner is just really good against uncoordinated teams. We just got a lot of picks with Skarner as well. That was not a good game. That was not a good game.
Well, it's important for you guys looking forward to see what went wrong there exactly, and I like to hear that you're kind of owning up to it because you have some very big matches coming up. Of course, that RNG rematch next week comes to mind. What is the biggest thing you have to clean up, you think, going into those important games?
Well, this game actually, I'm not sure if anyone knows, but Soren's extremely sick. He can't talk, so I kind of lost my other shot caller. We lost our other shot caller on the team, so it's really hard for us to lose a voice, especially one as vocal as Soren. And I hope he recovers and I'm able to focus more on my own individual play. I know I got caught a lot. That was really embarrassing. But yeah, it's just I don't know. Vincent, he also, dying early in lane is a really, it's a big mental hit. And so, just trying to get the team back to being coordinated without another shot caller on the team is really, really difficult. I think in the next week, we'll just play more clean early game. And hopefully Soren will have his voice back. So I'll be able to play a lot better. And our team will be able to play a lot better.
All right, well, thank you very much, Doublelift. To that, it is very important for you guys to get a good performance here. We heard you say in the very opening video, I don't know how much I have left in the tank, which was a very kind of worrying thing to hear. So is that pressure maybe getting to you as well, knowing that this is your shot?
Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest opportunity I've ever had to win Worlds, and I'm not going to blow it. So I hope you guys cheer us on.
All right, there we go. Doublelift owning up to the mistakes TSM made here, but they still pull out the win, so nothing is lost. Analyst Test, take it away.
Thank you very much, Shocks. TSM scraping by in a victory there. You heard it from the man himself, Doublelift on stage. Not a good game. So they're recognizing immediately off the bat that this is not the level of play that they even expect from themselves coming into this tournament. And that's kind of where I want to start. Expectation versus reality for these teams. We talked about Splyce being this young team. We expect them to get outlaned. But if they can get to those late game team fights, maybe they swing something. On the flip side, much higher expectations for TSM, and they just didn't come to fruition in those early portions of the game.
And while we don't know to what extent Soren's illness is affecting his ability to shot call during the game, the fact that Splyce targets the early game junglers, Lee Sin, Elise, takes away the Rek'Sai, and TSM is just unable to actually make anything happen in the early and mid game is really a worrying thing because we're so used to them playing fast games and just being able to pull the trigger over and over, and if the only guy that you're relying on is just Svenskeren on Flash, the game slowed down so much, and it gets to these points where only the late game fights matter, and anybody can win at that match.
So a couple of points. I actually saw Bjergsen in the hotel last night. He definitely could not speak at all. You know, was croaking out words. So that part is definitely no bluff. But coming back to the draft, like you touched on, this is the first time we've actually seen TSM on red side. They've been on blue side the other 2 games, and I basically called for Splyce to learn from Samsung. I really like how they targeted. So the first 2 bans, Lee Sin Elise, the strongest playmaking junglers. We know all about Svenskaren's Lee Sin. The final ban is Vlad. You might think, why? Syndra hadn't been banned at that point, and Vlad is kind of seen as the only pick that can really stand up to Syndra with Aurelion Sol disabled. Remember, Aurelion Sol hopefully back tomorrow. So in that situation, you have to ban Syndra. First pick Rek'Sai, and those playmaking junglers are gone. Skarner, sure, he can do certain things, but he's still farming to 6 like we saw from Peanut on Nocturne. So they stifled TSM early. And given that TSM have to play 2 games on the red side still next week and only a single game on the blue side, I'd like to see other teams follow this trend, keep banning the junglers, and hold down Svenskeren, who has been their star so far this tournament.
Yeah, I think the focus has to be on complementing Splyce on their plan coming in. Yes, TSM, you know, may have some problems with, you know, illness right now, but attacking the early game, denying TSM these early tools that they've been using to snowball the vision into the jungle control was a really good move. And TSM actually still got a lot of those early jungle moves going for those blue buffs that we were counting, but they weren't able to really maneuver like really strong lanes in coordination with the jungle to really make any sort of big moves early.
I was a little disappointed with how Splyce played the early game. I wanted to see more proactivity out of them and be able to really punish the Skarner. Obviously, Skarner not being able to make a lot of early game moves, waiting for that level 6. But I think that the big reason why they slowed down is because TSM had such better crab control as opposed to Splyce. Splyce got no crabs in the first 10 minutes while TSM had 4. And that means that it's both spawns of both crabs on both sides, which is a huge amount of pressure for the side lanes. And it just allows you to play that much safer and confident, especially when you have a Skarner on your side that can just easily move in and out of the river and just provide that extra pressure for the lanes. And I think that had Splyce gone for better control, utilizing their laners to get those opportunities, because they had it multiple times, they would have been able to find Rek'Sai behind multiple lanes and punish, particularly Soren or Bjergsen, who actually blew his flash unnecessarily in the bottom fight. He could have been punished so many more times, and we could have seen a good snowball from Splyce.
Now that experience for TSM ultimately, well, it was allowed them to pull themselves out of that hole, and that's going to bring us to our replay brought to you by Acer here in the mid lane. A 3 for 2 picked up for TSM plus the Baron.
Exactly. TSM, they transitioned into playing off the Fog of War, using that speed to get the pulls. Here it was actually a bit touch and go because they go for the Nami first again, but Bjergsen kites back, he survives, and then Doublelift as well, able to survive, and they are able to chase this down. So yeah,
I mean, that crit blowing on the creep and then the scouting, the Ash Arrow shots on the I mean, that's a little painful, but regardless, they're still able to really play that fight out well because of how they are able to, that exhaust from Biofrost really coming in crucial.
I mean, there were hiccups for sure, but the exhaust from Biofrost, that was really on point. Stopped the cannon ripping through the team. And in general, it was outclassed in terms of macro, especially in the late game. TSM knew how to win when they got a bit of a sniff. Splyce had control, but just couldn't go from there.
Yeah, the main thing they did was create picks with their Karma speed on the Skarner and the Jhin long range abilities to snare.
So it really was a team effort, but player of the game is going to go to Svenskeren on that Skarner. Doublelift kind of pointed towards it against uncoordinated teams. That's the pick that allowed them to, you know, single people out and turn fights, create the pressure on the map. So ultimately going to him, but it wasn't a pretty game for any of the members really on TSM's side.
Definitely true. I mean, they hold themselves to a higher standard, and you could hear it in the interview.
All right, well, we've still got one more score to settle today, and we'll be back in just a few minutes as China's Royal Never Give Up and Korea's Samsung Galaxy take to the stage, so don't go anywhere.
FLICKR said that it's okay for Bjerg to call himself NA FLICKR.
Yeah, he deserves that name.
He owns the copyright for the NA FLICKR.
What you should say is it's okay for FLICKR to call himself Korean Bjergsen.
Now battle in the bot lane, a nice bubble. The ignite and the attempt at lane dominance might just work out. First blood for Mickey just in time. 1,500 health left on Baron. Bjergsen picks up Kami, but at least it secured Baron for Trashy. Fight continues.
I'm going to Casio. Casio. Just run, Mickey, run, just run. I'll save you. Okay, dead. We can kill him. Nice. Alright, show me. As a super low. You got this. Alright, I'm on HP. Nice.
TSM complete the comeback.